Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Too. And tonight we have a good show prepared. Me and my good friend and Professor Drea.
Thank you.
What's
Hi,
going on?
everyone. Hello. I'm excited to be here.
That's good. That's good. You know you're more than welcome all the time. And tonight we have just a discussion that me and you had privately that we'll bring publicly because I think that a lot of times, like we always have, and me and you discussed it. A lot of us always have what we call buyer's remorse.
hmm
A lot of times we always fall on our face and then be like, some of us don't take, majority of us, I believe, don't take accountability for what we're doing. And then the first thing we do, what's up, Nicole? The
And
first thing we do is we blame the other person instead of saying, like, yo, it was me. Like, I saw all the red flags, and red flags has been an issue. So tonight's conversation between Dre and myself, you guys, we're going to talk about Black Love Volume 1 because we plan on doing more than one show. But tonight we're going to talk about vetting and courting.
my two favorite words. I love vetting and courting. I don't think we do enough in today's society. We vet people based off their pockets or how they look. We don't vet people in their family, how they treat their family. We can talk about medical history, mental health history, have they been married before, have they been incarcerated, are they a pedophile? We don't go into depth. We're just like, oh, he look good, I look good, he's this high value man. I don't know if that term is still popping, but people just go based off of the surface level and then they end up getting a nightmare when they realize that, oh, this person's a facade.
So it's crazy because before we decided to do when we decided to do the show was a couple weeks ago, and then the skit video came out, which most people didn't realize was a skit, where a young lady was displeased about going to the Cheesecake Factory. And so lately online, there's been a bunch of lists going about, dates you don't take on the first date, stuff like this. So, what is your view on that? Like, if a guy took you somewhere on the first date and he said, "Look, I want to go out," um, what's your view on that?
First dates, I feel like you should have conversations before to know where you're gonna go, right? You should have lengthy conversations of what you eat, your likes and dislikes, what you may do. Let's even talk about, do you drink? Do you do hookah? But I know that was on the list as well. So you're gathering information. Y'all know I'm a social worker by trade. You gotta gather information, collect data for people. Also, too, in between that time when it comes to first dates, do a Google search because do you want to go on a first date with this person? Because they may have like all type of felonies. They may have, been like something violent, domestic violence. And people don't. They're like, I'm gonna get a free meal because homeboy said he's gonna take me out on a date. And I feel like you should pick a place in which is public. And I feel women should have their own money. When I was coming up, my mom always said, she's like, yes, I understand you get into the dating phase. Make sure you have your own money just in case something happens. And I think a lot of times women don't think that. They think, oh, the guy's supposed to pay for it, which I believe I'm very traditional when it comes to that. But you just never know what may happen to have your own money. Depends on the stature in your life, too, where you want to go. Nothing wrong with the Cheesecake Factory. I like the Cheesecake Factory, but I'm not going to nobody's crib. I don't want you coming to pick me up from my house. I don't want you to know where I live at that early in the stage of the game. And also, too, like, you should drive. You should meet that person there. And also, too, once again, tell someone, hey, this is where I'm going because of safety reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I look at it as far as with, first dates.
I think the first date, like you said, when you meet somebody, it is about information gathering. So the first date, I believe, should be very simplistic as possible. I mean, if they tell you to put on a nice dress and some shoes, it might be overboard, and you'd be like, "Yo, why is he taking me to this fine restaurant?" Or why she may be taking me to this fine restaurant? Because nowadays, a woman will feel comfortable with asking a man out on a date. So I believe that it should be very simplistic. It could be the movies. It could be, one of my things, and I use it in business. If I can't sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, even if you don't drink coffee, if we can't sit down and for us from the Northeast, you know how Dunkin' Donuts is. If we can't sit down and have a cup of coffee, then that means we can't have no conversation whatsoever. So I
Absolutely.
believe that it should be very simplistic. I believe that process of information gathering is basically a verbal application. And but what I did notice, Drea, is a lot of people when they're forward and they do tell or do put everything on the table, it'd be like, oh, you got a lot going on. Like you done told me a lot. You may have got two kids by two separate
Mm-hmm.
homes. You may have for example, you may have the crazy baby mother, and you may tell a female like I take care of my kids, but my son or daughter's mother they be tripping, and for some people they view that as red flag. So the person saying it might be like, I'm not gonna say nothing yet because I don't want her to feel like I'm gonna bring drama to my life. And he could have his whole situation under control.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it should be information
Yes.
gathering. It should be being able to have a conversation. A lot of people I noticed can't have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some people are very aloof
Mm-hmm.
and just their social skills. So being able to have that type of conversation like, hey, what's up, how you doing, what's going on, how was work, like you even
Right.
see people get mad nowadays where they upset because a person may be in their inbox or whatever and they may entertain it and they always want to say grand risings, good morning. That's because that person really don't know how to strike a
Right.
conversation, so they're waiting
Exactly.
for the next person to be like, hey, how you doing, what's going on, how was your day,
Right.
what's your day like at work, because work could be kind of monotonous, the same thing every
Mm-hmm.
day. So
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that vetting period is crucial.
It is.
From experience, I can say that the vetting period, I think as we get older, we look at it different.
Yes. I agree.
I think it's that space, and me and you always
Yes.
share that, like having somebody in your space, where even if it's just a friend,
Mm-hmm.
they got a lot going on.
Right.
So when they got a lot going on, you don't even want them in your space. And some friends really understand, like, look, I got a lot going on. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even want to come around you right now because
Right.
I got some messy stuff going on. Let me clean up my mess. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very, very, very important thing and key component. One of the biggest issues is that we have this physical attraction sometimes that just mars the hell out of everything. Like, and
Right.
some people just want to meet you and deal with you just physical. Like they're not even thinking about nothing else. They just like, look,
Right.
they're sexually attractive. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sexually attracted to them. This is what I want to do. I'll worry about
Right.
everything else later. And they may have to deal with that decision 18 extra years, or they may get something
And have to
for
deal
the
with that
rest
for
of
the
their
rest of their
lives.
life. Exactly. And anyone that you lay down with is your potential co-parent. And so you have to be careful. Once again, it's going back to vetting. And I just feel like people should be honest. If you want to sit down there and be like, hey, I just want to just, knock it down, just say that. And so, okay, for me, it's like next. That's why I always ask every man prior to getting into my relationship now, what's your intentions? And when men start doing that, choking, like, you out of here, sir. Like, I'm not here for that because I was married before getting into my relationship. I was married for 11 years. So I was taught to be a wife. I was pretty much like, saw a lot of marriages in my family. So that's how I wanted to be married, and being married for so long, then getting divorced. And during that time period, of really just working on myself, going through therapy, really reevaluating where I was at in my life. And even I wrote a whole list, and money, looks wasn't on the list. I was like, okay, I want a Black man. And I was like, this is all the things that I want. And I mean, with my significant other now, I got those things, like 90% of the things. And so when I was like, hey, well, what's your intentions? Because we went to college together. He was like, well, this is what my intentions are. And I said, okay, that's in alignment with my intentions as well. But people don't even have those, they don't even ask those questions. They're just like, oh, you look good. You know, once again, going back to like, we're going to knock it down, and not saying, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And then you get, oh, the dating pool is trash. Well, did you ask the appropriate questions? Did you vet? And how you going to say that it's trash? Maybe you got to get out that pool and go somewhere else.
I find that interesting when I hear, I'm one of the people that listen very carefully what people say. And I find it interesting when a person says the dating pool is trash, because I'll be like, aren't you in it? Like, if it's trash, you're in it. So I think that sometimes we come in certain situations with these blinders. And, I have a good friend, and he always speaks about be the expectation or the standard that you want someone else to be. And I think that one of the things that our elders, and I always have to go back to them, is because the Black family structure, the Black family unit survived everything until probably the last 34 years. So what happened in the last 30 or 40 years that the unit is not surviving through? When you survive slavery, you survive Jim Crow, you survive Reconstruction and all this stuff, you survive the Great Migration North, but you don't survive that 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020. So I always ask myself, like, what did they do, or what did they have that we didn't have? It could be money, it could be opened up to success. And even now, I hear, for example, a lot of women will say, we're the most educated, or the jobs. I mean, that is a beautiful accomplishment,
right,
for a woman to be educated, to climb up, quote unquote, the corporate ladder for her. But that's not a qualification for a relationship.
It's not.
And I think a lot of people have looked at that as a qualification, because that's maybe what they have looked for. They may have looked for the guy that made high six figures and was very well educated. So that was their qualification. But I think that the majority of people, I'm speaking for a middle-aged Black man, majority of people just want the peace of mind.
Yes. And that's important. Peace of mind is very expensive. And I think so many times that once that gets disrupted, for me, you gotta go. I don't care how much money you make, how you gonna treat me, and also too, your character, your personality. Can we vibe? If we don't have money, can we vibe if we're building together? We forget those qualities. Do you have integrity? Do you have the grit too to get through life? Life is tough for Black folks. Like, life is very tough for us. And it's like, oh, well, he doesn't have the six figures, I'm out. Or he doesn't have this corporate job, I'm out. And me being an educated Black woman, I always look at it like, okay, I can care less if you have a PhD, master's. I can care less about that, because like you said, that's not a factor into you as a person. That's just an add-on. That's an addendum to, your list of qualifications for you to get into, certain type of rooms. And sometimes you don't even get in those rooms because of, your race, ethnicity, gender, whatever the case is. And so women need to get off that high horse too of, oh, we the most educated. Yeah, but we're also broken. We're also used for our labor. We also too are highly in debt, getting evicted out of homes and apartments. We don't have those conversations, but yet, we look at Instagram, everyone's up. Everyone is living this dope life. They're not. Like, they're really not. People are lonely. People are sad. people are on the verge of a meltdown. People are on the verge of one emergency away from being homeless, and we don't have those conversations when it comes to courting, when it comes to vetting as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because that vetting process, remember, the 90-day rule. I think that rule, if you're interested in somebody, and somebody put this into one of the groups, um, how long does it take for you to chase? And if we want to say it's a chase, a cat and mouse game, or a cat and dog game, whatever chase you may want to say that you're in, if you're trying to be with this person, you're trying to be this person's mate, there shouldn't be a time limit. Actually, I mean, you may feel like, oh, I'm just So, like we said, if you're being transparent and you just want the individual for sex, say that. But if you
Hmm.
want the individual for long term, it could just be friendship. It could just be, let's be friends and see
Right.
what's going to happen. Why does it have to be a time limit? Who puts a time limit on the courting and the vetting phase, getting to know each other? Because, like somebody said in the comments, right, about the red flags. A
Hmm.
lot of times we see red flags, but we want what we want when we want it. So we run right through that red stop sign.
Right.
And not that we don't care about the red flags, we just think that the person is worth it. So if the
Hmm.
person is worth it, why put those time limit, those 90-day restrictions on it? Why, be invested in the vetting and the courtship of the individual. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, and it, it doesn't speak home. It speaks home to you a little bit, but it speaks home because me and you met as friends, and
Right.
understanding where we at in regards to the diaspora.
Right. 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 Right.
Let's talk about culturally how sometimes you could be from the suburbs and you could meet somebody that's strictly from the hood, and it's a culture difference there. Then it could be a culture difference because the person may be black and from a different country, different area of the world. But how impactful is do you think that is when the vetting process goes on?
Um, because I've been on both spectrums. I was married to someone who is Nigerian American. Big difference. Even though we both was from the same city, we known each other for so long. Major difference. Food preparation, how I may look at things, versus how he may have looked at things culturally. How my ex in laws looked at Black Americans. It was always like a constant battle of who's better. No, we didn't enslave y'all. Black Americans are lazy. It's just that whole stereotypical conflict. And I felt I was in this what's that word, intersectionality of being married to somebody who was from a different culture than I was, and just even valuing family, or just even valuing being a Black American, and the different red tapes and the struggles that we have to go through here in the States. And then being force fed, well, you are African. Okay, I get that. But what country is going to accept me if I do go to the continent? Versus now being with someone who, is from the South. My parents are from the South. We have more of a connection because we get one another despite him, being from Alabama. My parents are from Alabama. I spent my summers down here. So I feel it's more of a connection of, okay, I know the collective struggle because once again, he can go as far back with his ancestors, either getting off one of the coastal cities, whether it's Charleston, Savannah, whatever the case is. So we have that connection there, the connection of being, HBCU grads, and just being once again that Southern culture too. Like I could talk to him about certain things about the South, and it's like, yep, I experienced that, or my parents experienced, going to segregated schools. So it's a major difference when you're dating culturally. And that's why it's important. Can you handle that too? Because a lot of times when you do date someone who's from a different culture, even though they may, what they say, all skin folks and kin folks, even though you may have that same skin tone or skin folks, you talking about different foods, you're talking about different dialects, you're talking about different language, you're talking about different accessibility too, to like different countries and where you can live, how you gonna raise your kids, how they view people, from this continent, that's all we know is here in America. So it's a big difference. You got to even vet with that. And also, can you handle that too? Because they may force you into something that you don't agree with, as far as with, well, you got to wear their cultural wear. And you may be like, I don't rock with that. Like, I want to wear, my cultural wear when it comes to like getting married, if that's what you decide to do. So it's a lot that comes with dating somebody from a different culture. If somebody from the hood and you're from the suburbs, you can work that out. But that culture piece, a whole nother level of
Dre, one thing I noticed, I know a lot of people that be like, yo, I'm only dating somebody from the Caribbean. They some Black Americans that I know really be like, I don't date other Black Americans. I only date Caribbean men. I love me some West Indian man. West Indian man know how to treat his woman. Now, I do believe that those cultural differences are major.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I do notice is that you even on a cultural level, to the point of, like you said, understanding the person's background,
right,
and understanding their relationship. One of the things that I view very, very highly, even in my friendships, is what is that person's relationship with their family.
Mm-hmm.
Because nowadays you have a bunch of people that love to use the slogan "family over everything," but at the end of the day, they be beefing with their family. They don't even speak to their siblings, and you don't have to speak to certain people every day. I get it, life's, but you're saying one thing and doing another. Now, I always view, like, how could you have love for an outsider, so forth and so on, in a relationship, friendship, or whatever, but then you don't even have love for your quote unquote your tribe, your family, where you from. You don't have no and we all should have some type of reverence, some type of pride where, this is my family, this is where I'm from, cultural pride. But then you got some people that be so like beat down from life, where you be like, you don't speak to your sister. No, we ain't spoke to each other in 15 years. Huh?
Right.
So much to the point where they won't even claim each other.
Right.
So I think that's important, and that's a red flag that I always looked at, I always thought about. And it's just interesting that most people will say, like like I'm saying, social media has messed us up so bad, right? Where, and I know that a lot of the online stuff really don't pertain to our age group. It's really for the younger people, which is okay because they have to go through what they have to go through. They have to live life. But it's just amazing how a person will have these grandiose standards.
Mm-hmm.
And then you be like, you got all these standards, but you got old boy, excuse the expression, Dre, you got old boy that's putting his foot so far up your ass.
Right.
Or treating you less than you need to be treated as a woman.
Absolutely.
But you online talking about you want the ideal man. You don't want nobody that's a bus driver.
Right, exactly. Or someone who makes six figures and you living on an air mattress. Like, this is the people that really get on my nerves about that. I'm like, you sleeping on an air mattress, but you want a man to make six figures, and you taking yourself to Popeyes, and you want this man to take you to Del Fresco or whatever these 5-star restaurants. And I'm like, you can't even afford to take yourself there. But that goes to like the self-love. It's a lot of people who don't love themselves, and they just think, well, I could just throw on this makeup, I could throw on this mascara, dude's gonna rock with me. But you gotta, I know people get mad about what you bring to the table, but you gotta bring more to the table than what you're bringing.
And they go Dwayne and Dwayne is the person I was talking about earlier when I said he always talks about this. do you meet the standards that you require from another person?
Right.
And even with that, with what Dwayne is saying in his slogan, that's even goes for the friendships. Like, are we
Exactly.
pouring? What are we pouring into each other as friends? If you're saying, okay, this is my people's, I'm gonna
Right.
pour something into them. I'm just gonna take out. I'm gonna just keep taking out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep.
gonna suck them dry emotionally,
Right.
spiritually,
Right.
everything, and then I'm not
Exactly.
pouring nothing back into the cup.
Yeah, and that's what that why a lot of women get upset with what you bring to the table, because you just can't be bringing your looks in box. Every chick got a box, you know what I'm saying? And it's like also too, it's like you have to bring more than your looks. You have to bring peace. You have to bring, once again, integrity, personality. Can you rock with his family? Like, what if his family gets sick and y'all get married? Are they going to be able to move in with y'all if nursing home is not, the option? You have to think about that. Are you a conversationalist? What do you, not even saying about what you do for a job, but if this man, something happens to him, he, which he can no longer work, what are you going to do for money? Because sometimes you're going to have to be in that position in which you make more money. Are you going to throw in his face too? Because all money's not good money neither. And can y'all build together? Like, I come from that cloth of family, of seeing my great grandparents, my grandparents and my parents, building, even though my parents are divorced, but, seeing my mom being remarried and really, having a comfortable life. But, she's able to build with my stepdad, even though, he had his, certain income, or just even who he is. It's just, I have seen people in my family really build together a life, and it doesn't have to be this grandiose 6-figure life. They live a easy, simple life, and that's what I'm about. I'm not trying to be out here the power couple or relationship goals, because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors with these people.
And in all actuality, that's and it goes inside what you're saying. What the person said here when they said, "What will the home culture look like? What will the family trade business be?" Is that a lot of
Right.
times people will get into relationships and probably get married and may have kids where they never established a home.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just you go to work, I go to work, we pay the bills together. Y'all basically are partners, and like you never really established a home. She may have, she or he may have been into gardening, and then it's like, oh, that's a hobby you always wanted to do. Like investing in each other, and that's key. That you
Right.
said that a lot of times people will say like, you see it nowadays, and I'm just going to use this example. She's helping him get on his feet, right? Right. So when things go bad, the first thing that she may say is, I invested this in you. What the reality is that you really invested this in yourself because
Mm-hmm.
you wanted this individual, you wanted this man to be a better person
Right.
so he could be a better person for you.
Exactly.
It's really, and I always say it, and people always be like, well, why you say it like that? I always be like, sometimes you got to be a little selfish. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you got to say, like, I can't be there for you if I'm not on top of my game, on top of what I
Right.
gotta do, on top of me being the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that in vetting, like we're talking about, you guys in the chat, because we don't want to go too far into this discussion, is in that vetting process of what we do is sometimes we throw all our cards on the table. As
We do.
Me and Dwayne always talk about, I'm putting all my chips in the middle of the table. I'm all
Right.
in. And then you realize, then you feel stupid, for lack of better words,
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like the person didn't appreciate or wasn't worthy.
Right.
And I think that when going back to it, it's like, what was you in the relationship for? Was it a business relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is that a lot of times people are in situations and they're really just doing business with each other. They decide,
Right.
we're going to live together, we're going to pay bills together, we're going to have sex, we're going to get married. But do we really know each other? Do we
Absolutely.
really have that, being able, like you said, to go through tough times together, to go through those types of struggles. Because some people, man, the first time they see adversity, they out.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's why I said, like, do that person have grit and resilience? Like, you have to have grit and resiliency to get through a marriage and to really, say this is who this I married. I accept them. Because we can't change anyone. We can barely change ourselves. That's a hard job to do. And sometimes you get knee deep into something, and the person told us and they showed us who they are, and we're like, oh man, now I'm knee deep in this marriage. And sometimes people turn situationships into a marriage and it never works out. And that's why, once again, it goes back to intentions and really being able to have the courage to be like, yo, I'm out when you going on those dates. Like, this person is not in alignment of what I want. Hence why it's important to ask, what's your intentions? Parents used to ask that when you bring someone home. Well, what's your intentions with my child? And we're just like, oh, you look good. And like my mom always told me, she's like, if that man's acting weird or abusive or violent on a date, just say, hey, I'll be right back. I gotta go to my car and be out. So hence why I'm a big component of driving your own car, on those first dates, because people show you.
Oh, drive your own car. Don't pick me up. I'll meet you somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember one time, and it's good that for you guys in the chat, Drea shared this with me a while ago. Her statement, "What is your intentions for me?" She told me she said this to someone. I'm not gonna say who the someone was, and that's an interesting thing that you say that, because I'm quite sure. And you could tell us, how many times have you caught somebody stumbling on their words when you be like, well, what's your intentions for me?
I'm going to tell you, before I got into my relationship, every guy that I went on a date with, it was about 5 guys I went on a date with, studied. Like, I was like, they got to go. And I stopped dating. I was like, I'm not going to date. And I prayed to the Most High. I said, you know what? I'm done dating. I said, whoever you have for me, it's gonna happen. And so when I got that studying that I don't know, I'm like, oh no. So when I did my prayers, like for real, and I sat down, I got clear, and I said, this is what I want in a man, and I also have to work on myself. So I also worked on myself. I worked a lot, and I'm still working on myself. When you've been divorced, and I mean, it took my divorce 2 years to get finalized. You go through, that was a broken time for me. Like, that was a dark, broken time. You have to have a lot of patience and have to be like, you know what? Because you do blame yourself. It's a death. You're like, oh, I'm a failure. I got all these other things going on, but I have to work on myself because I played a part in it too. And I think we don't want to admit that sometimes. So that's when I started getting more clear, because when I got married at 28, even though I was like, oh, I know him since we was 14, I didn't ask him what's your intentions. I think we kind of turned this like, oh, we're familiar with each other into a marriage. And it was always struggle train. We was always on the struggle train. And when I had got into, like I said, that divorce, and I went through my divorce during COVID, and I really got clear, and I really started tapping into my spirituality, and I was like, okay, God, I need to get help. Hence why I started therapy, during my divorce proceedings. And I'm in therapy still. And I'm telling you, that helped me so much. And when I had prayed and I had got clear, that's when I reconnected with my significant other. Because I was like, I don't want to date the dude, because we was best friends in college. And I was like, I don't want to date him. And it was funny how when we reconnected, it was at a game. And another dude was trying to talk to me. And I said, what's your intentions for me? And he was like, oh, and he did all this roundabout. I said, sir, I'm just trying to buy merchandise from you. I think I was trying to buy like a hoodie. I was like, you don't have no intentions. I'm good. And then that's when my significant other was like, Andrew, is that you? And I was like, so when I asked him, I said, so what's your intentions? We want to date the next week. I said, so what's your intentions? He's like, I want to be married. He's like, I'm tired of being single. I want to be married. I want to have a family. Boom. And we've been together for a year. So I'm like, he was clear on what he wanted. And then he's, I know people get caught with this masculine man. And I was like, I know I need a masculine man. I was like, I don't need what's that, simp or a dude I can run over, because I don't have time for that. I don't have time. I want to create a home and be with someone who's going to rock with me. I'm going to rock with them. We're going to build that's it. I'm not trying to be like, oh, we gotta live this high powered life. I just want someone who's just going to rock with me and like what's being said, have a vision, have a plan, have a mission. Ain't nobody have time to be out here winging it or being by themselves and they doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. What's the point of being married?
And it's just like the brother said in the comment. Just sounds like dudes that have no vision, plan, mission. And I happen to have a lot of female friends, and it's amazing how many females really, really want that type of dude that's going to take charge, that's going to have some self discipline. Like, you may see some things online and be like, these chicks, for example, these chicks or these women, they don't want hard. They want hard dudes when it comes to being disciplined, knowing what they want, being assertive, being straightforward. They don't want that, you stumbling over your words. And it's interesting that you use that. What's your intentions for me? Because the stumbling comes at most people don't know.
They don't. They don't know. And a lot of people are not leaders. And I need a man that's a leader because it's, with the type of job that I have, like I'm a leader at work. I don't want to be a leader at home. Like I want someone who's a leader. Also, I'm traditional too. Like I say, I seen marriages in my family. So I've been married. So this not anything new. So I need a man who also is in alignment with that. And his parents been married. That's also what I put on my list, to be honest with you. And my significant other's parents been married for like 41 years. And his grandparents was married. So they have that legacy in which, once again, they have built. And so it's not one of them situations like, I don't know, I'm not clear on who I am. Like, he's very clear on who he is. People may look at him like, oh, he's this pretty boy dude. He's in this frat. I'm like, no, he's very masculine and I don't really have to do much, like as far as he, open my door, he take my bags to the car. So this is the second dude I ever dated that ever did all those things for me. I don't have to ask him, oh, this is what I want. He like, oh, you like this? Okay, I got it. So I also looked at qualities in my dad. And I was like, I want a man that also have qualities that's similar to my father. And I think so many times too, if you don't have your father that's present in your life, even though my parents divorced, my dad has amazing qualities. Yeah, he got his negative qualities, but I focus on, hey, these are the positive qualities that I want and my significant other, and I got those. And then he get along great with my dad and my brother. And that to me, that's important. Because once again, if my parents get sick, I want to move them in. I don't want them to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
So, they have to be in alignment with that. And I would want his parents to move in with us if they get sick as well. So once again, it's the alignment piece. Like we have, like they say in the Bible, you want to be, equally yoked. That's very true. Alignment, whatever you want to call it, you don't want to be over here like, I can't stand their parents, they can't move in with us. And then that's a constant beef. And then you're not going to get blessed. You're not going to prosper if, you're constantly beefing over something that's petty. And like I said, one dude I went on a date with, it took him one time. I was like, you out of here. I remember his mother called him and we was like, after the date, he called his mother a bitch. I said, you out of here. I'm like, I don't care if this woman cussed you out, whatever. When he called his mother a B, I was like, you out. Then when I did further investigation, he had 9 restraining orders on him against on women.
Oh, he was crazy.
Like, you out. He was crazy. I was like, no, block, and I will block you. Like I was like, you out of here, because I'm not about to be number 10.
One of the things that I noticed that a lot of people like yourself, they do have the traditional values, have the tradition, like you grew up 2 parents home. So you expect, and I always say to some people, be like, the 2-parent home, some people don't realize how important it is if you've never not had it. So for those of us that didn't have it, some people be like, well, I made it, I'm all right, I'm good. But still, it was something missing there. Mm-hmm. You needed to see the interworkings of your mother and father. Even if it was nowadays, everybody looks at their parents and be like, oh, it was dysfunctional. Even in their dysfunction, if you want to say that your parents was dysfunctional, even in their dysfunction, it worked It worked for her and it worked for him. She was happy, he was happy. They stayed in what you perceive as dysfunction
Right.
for a reason. Because at the end of the day, their intention, the kids, and you always see a lot of times people that have kids together, they be like, I'm not getting divorced for the sake of the kids. And you'd be like, what? Ain't you unhappy? But you're gonna stay there for the kids. But then when you mature and you start to understand this, be like, you want to always have that example for your children that,
Mm-hmm.
look, I sacrificed maybe my personal happiness
Right.
for to show you this is what a family structure is supposed to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just use for an example. Your father likes to hang out. He hang out with his friends all day long. So it may seem like he's not attentive to me, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
attentive to our home. I'm attentive to
Right.
our household. The woman we just using some traditional phrases, you guys. So don't think that this may be Drea or my personal view. The woman may be like, you know what? I'm going to make the best home possible. I'm gonna
Right.
have nowadays. Let's use some nowadays stuff. I'm gonna have the essential oils popping. When somebody walks, as soon as they walk through the threshold, they're gonna be like, it smell immaculate up in this piece. The kids is tight. They got the lunch. They got this. They got that. And they'd be like, well, why is she staying with old boy? Like he's straight treating her terrible. But her focus may be like, I'm invested in my kids. And at the end of the day, like, if I leave him, I'm leaving my pension. He go he going down there at the warehouse. He working for us. Because some people that's their focus. That look, he working for
Right.
us. He's still paying the bills, and I'm letting him do whatever he doing. But
Exactly.
nowadays, you see a lot of people, Drea, are so quick to, well, I'm not happy, I'm out.
Right.
My
Exactly.
happiness is the most important thing, and they're so selfish
Right.
on what they want. It's
Very.
me, 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 me. So I'm
Right.
out.
Right. And marriage is not always, like I said, you skipping through the valleys. You're gonna have your unhappy days. You're gonna have days in which you're not talking to them. You're gonna have those moments, but that means that you should be out because it takes two to tango. I always look at it. The reason why I got divorced because of infidelity, and that's biblical. Like I went based off of Bible. Like, okay, yeah, I have my moments in which I was unhappy. I'm done with you, but I was like, oh, hold on, infidelity, because now that's a public health issue. You're putting my health, holistic health at risk. Never mind happiness, because you did your thing. And once again, it's I go based off of that. I'm like, yeah, I had plenty of days I was unhappy. I'm pretty sure he was unhappy, but people like, oh, he did this. I'm initiating a divorce. Really? Because he didn't buy you a Birkin bag? Like, that's ridiculous. Or, abuse as well, those things as well. But, because of homeboy didn't get you this purse, or, homegirl didn't do this. And it's a high percentage of women who, initiate divorce. I get it. But once again, it goes back to, you hear a lot of Christian people like, oh yeah, I got a divorce because once again, I wasn't happy. I got to find my happiness. Or what's homegirl Tia? Is it Tia Mowry? I graduated from this marriage. What does that mean? Like, I don't understand that
And
lingo.
then 90 days later, she talking about the dating pool.
Right.
And it's funny, and they use her as an example. And then people get mad when she gets killed on social media. You clearly said, we get it. You clearly said, and you let us in. And we're just using Tia for an example. You let people in your life, you let people in your marriage, and you say you're not happy, you're getting divorced. He didn't do anything wrong. You just graduated. But then 90 days, you mad at the dating pool that you're in.
Exactly.
It, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And I just look at it, and people get upset. They're like, oh, the reason why your grandparents and your great grandparents stayed together because they didn't have, your grandmother didn't have any resources and she was getting abused and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're talking about the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, in which women can't have, anything in their name. But also, too, is they learn how to work together because they went through hell and back. You're talking about Black folks who just came out of Reconstruction. You're talking about Black people who have less resources than we ever, that sometimes we're like, oh my God. I'm like, sometimes I wish we had those resources like they did. You talking about Black people who got married. Yes, they got married at a young age because maybe they're coming out of an abusive situation. They was lacking resources. So they learned how to work things out together. Like my parents left Alabama, when they was 18 to move to Boston for a better life, that northern migration. And yeah, they built together. But of course, things happen in their marriage. I don't look at their marriage like, oh my God, I'm not going to ever get remarried because this happened in their marriage. That may not happen to me. But I learned how to build with somebody based off of my parents' foundation, based off of my grandparents' foundation, based off of my great-grandparents' foundation. So people need to also stop looking at social media and these filters and thinking, oh yeah, they live in this dope life. And a lot of people are scammers. A lot of people are scamming together. They trauma bonding together. And so, they just like, oh, I'm gonna stick with this. And those things are unacceptable, like trauma bonding and that whole abuse. And, no, you shouldn't stick with someone that way. You shouldn't stick with someone cheating on you day and night, and then you coming on Facebook writing this diary, then you going right back to them. It takes seven times for abuse, for someone that's a victim of abuse to get out that situation. So, that's why too, as a community, we have to be open and helping folks who, may be going through that instead of shaming them too, so.
One of the things that I always bug out about is that when people always be like, well, I ain't my grandmother and my aunt and them, I'm out. I think that, and even you brought it up when you talked about the resources. I think, and I'm just speaking from experience and what I've seen with my own two eyes and the little life that I led. And I'm not doing no pandering because I don't want you to think I'm pandering. I think the Black woman has always had resources. I think the myth has always been the Black man works down at the factory, the wife is the homemaker, and then nowadays we see society how, like we talked about earlier, the Black woman is always educated. However, even if the Black woman was the homemaker, she had something up under the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
She always had the resources to survive. I really believe that a lot of women stayed for him.
Right.
Because he would have been lost without her. I think that how people perceive, like, okay, he's out here doing this, and third. Why is she staying? No. She's staying, like I said, most of the time we may be like, she's staying for that foundation, the kids.
Right.
Pouring into her family, her home, because her home becomes her priority.
Right.
Traditional thinking. He's out there doing whatever. We're just using this as an example because it could be reverse.
Right.
A lot of times people be like, oh, she ain't ever worked nowhere, or that don't mean that she don't got the resources. The Black woman, historically in this country, and what we've all been through, and we all been through our own stuff, but the Black woman has always been the one that was able to have the resources.
Absolutely.
Some of us from back in the day, we remember we would ask our grandparents for money. Your grandfather be like, boy, I ain't got no money. He go in the other room. Your grandmother go in her brassiere, pull out a couple dollars, be like, here, don't spend it all in one place. So it's just interesting how, and even Dwayne said that a lot of times people don't have no foundation.
They don't.
Whatsoever. It's not built on nothing.
Right.
If you build on something that's fragile, it's easy to crumble.
Right. Exactly. But I like what you said about resources. Going back to like my great grandparents, like I don't know what resources my great grandmother had. My great grandmother got married at 14. Back then that was normal.
Shotgun wedding.
Right. Shotgun wedding.
My father pulled up like, yo, dude.
Exactly. Right. That. And, so she got married at 14. But going back to resources, my great grandfather was in the military and we got air property. You talking about land. Black people, in my family, we have land that's passed down to us. She didn't know how to read or write. She didn't even have a job. She made, like you said, she was a homemaker. My grandmother, same situation. She has land that she left to like my mom and my uncles. So Black women was always resources in the alchemists and held the families together. So I don't ever say like I'm not my grandmother, great grandmother. I'm not, because they took a lot of crap that I don't have to take in 2023. And I'm like, I am their wildest, dream for me to come from that ancestry to, I'm able to drive, I'm able to have credit, I'm able to own my home. I'm able to make the moves that I make because of the sacrifices that they make. So I don't ever say I'm not them, and they was married for like 50, 60 years. People can't even stay together for 6 months. And they're like, I'm out of here. And you like, you spent $20,000 on this wedding?
Even the premise of what Tyler Perry tried to do in explaining who Medea was, she was Big Mama.
Right.
Unfortunately, he gave a character of a joke, more of like not serious, but most people's Big Mama was the backbone, the core of all things went through Big Mama. Nothing changed. Everything had to go through her, and she was basically the backbone of the family. Even when she had to deal with her crazy sister, her crazy sister, or a crazy uncle. I mean, he did a good. He tried, and I believe that he tried. I just don't like a lot of the things that he put out there. Like Dwayne said, one good argument, people be out. People be out. I remember, Drea, and I don't want to go off too far off subject because I know we want to address some other issues going down the line. I'll never forget. I asked in the group, right? I says, women, do you go to the doctors with your man? Oh, you should have seen the pushback. They was like, no, I don't go to the doctor with him. I trust him. He ain't a little kid. Why should I go? I'm like, and I think that's important that, if you and that person are together and y'all establishing something, or y'all already established something, why wouldn't y'all be invested in each other when it comes to health?
Right. And mental health. Oh no, I'm going to the doctor, my man. I've been to the doctor, I'm going. And also too is like, you want to know what's going on, and maybe you have questions as well. But see, once again, a lot of people are not marriage material. A lot of people, and y'all may get mad, it's okay. A lot of people are products of side chicks, of side dudes. Y'all was like, oh, they look good. They got together for one night and didn't know what a family structure looked like. Grandma still out here in the streets. Great grandma is like, 60 years old. I'm 40. I just turned 40 this year. I know people whose grandparents have my age, and I'm like, I don't even have a kid yet. And I'm like, they're grandparents, but they still out here, So it's just so dysfunctional. But once again, people are still holding on to traditional values. People still getting married as Black people. There's still Black love. But once again, you can't just have one blowout and be like, oh, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, because you're going to have those arguments. As long as they're not knockout, drag out, we knocking each other out every weekend, you're going to have those tough conversations. When it comes to certain things, you may get triggered.
I definitely think that most people still believe in Black love, still believe in tradition. I think that a lot of people definitely in that age bracket, probably 35 to 50, are going through what I always call the second phase of life. Maybe they've been divorced, maybe their kids are grown, and they trying to figure it out. Like, my mortality is approaching. Some people may look at 40 and 50 and be like, you know what? I'm got my second win. I'm going all in head first. But then it's a group of people that still understand their maturity and where they're at in life and be like, you know what? Now let me refocus on who I choose to be with, who I want to, continue with my journey of life with, and who I want to go down this process with. The Black said during the 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, American Black women as a group were the most beautiful women in the world. What happened?
Oh, that's my part too.
I don't know if anything particularly happened. I'll just say that nowadays, and we will discuss this in a future episode, I think that we have gotten distracted of the journey.
Right.
As we would always say, freedom, justice, and equality has always been the pinnacle of the Black American struggle in this country. That
Mm-hmm.
some of us, we're so busy chasing the bag
Right.
that we have even sold out, or not only just our families and our counterparts, that we even sold out ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, Q, about social media has really been destructive of like, I was watching a documentary and it was saying how these cosmetic surgeries
Somebody
are
said
wow,
credit and curiosity.
that that too, you talking about the crack epidemic in the 80s, mass incarceration. I'm gonna have to go into that social media life. Like I said, they make it seem like everyone's up, and women, and I would even say men. We live in a country too that don't even um, appreciate Black beauty. If you're too dark, you're not it. If you're too light, you can pass. You got to be a certain, body shape. You got to be fit. You got to be this. You got to be that. Instead of really accepting who you are, as a person, really accepting your flaws and all, because guess what? You don't know what those cosmetic surgeries gonna. You've seen so many people die from them. And also too is like I done seen chicks with mad BBLs and they still single. I done seen dudes put all this dye in their hair and they still single. I don't think that we age gracefully. Like I look at my mom and my aunts, and I'm like, God, they look amazing, and they're melon, and that they still in their 70s. They're healthy. And you got the hookah era. You got folks doing this, folks that's tapping into different things. I'm like, I don't even want curiosity to kill me. Like I'm good. Like,
Marcia, stop now. Now you have to take a second look to see if it's a girl or a guy.
That's scary. That is very
Yeah.
scary because you don't know who's into what. I know when I went to the game this weekend, I'm like, is that like I have to do like 10 looks? Like, is that this or that's that? Then you got these pronouns, you got the sexual identity. So it's just a lot. It's just a lot that we shouldn't even. Is that curiosity thing? We shouldn't go down that
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's part of vetting too, Q.
Yeah. I mean, definitely vetting, and hopefully we discussed it well enough, and maybe everybody can discuss it amongst themselves and amongst their immediate friends how vetting is important, and vetting is everything. And like I said, it's no time limit. If this is what you're trying to do, this is what you're trying to establish. Um,
And
why
vetting goes
why would you
beyond.
put a 90-day rule? Like you see this young lady, and I'm gonna just say that if a man waits 90 days, 9 times out of 10, the women nowadays, respectfully to the women gonna be looking at you crazy. The women gonna be looking at you like you don't want none of this, or she may
Right,
feel like she's, because a lot of us have been through a lot. She may not even feel like she's attractive to you. So it's a very interesting thing.
right.
Marcia, it's nuts, huh?
It,
Literally.
it is, and vetting too. I think I have mentioned this too, so I want everyone to listen to this. When someone tells you, "Hey, I'm not interested in dating," like really, they for real, they being straightforward. Vet, go Google them, Google research, do your due diligence. Like, hey, what's your last name? Oh, okay, another story. So it was this guy that wanted to talk to me. He's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Like we was about to exchange information. I was like, what's your name? So I went to go talk. He was on OnlyFans. I was like, sir, you ain't getting my number. Like, I'm a whole professional. And if I date you, I'm taking you to the event and they're like, oh, what's your name? Blah blah blah. I'm like, you on OnlyFans? No, sir. That's not my thing. That may be some other folks' things. But that's why it's so important to vet, to
And I
look
don't know,
at
and
everything.
I don't know what's the age bracket of people that's watching. I appreciate everybody that's watching. Make sure that if you're on Facebook, make sure that you hit the love sign if you appreciate, or like sign, and if you're on YouTube, make sure that you like the video. The funniest thing that you're saying about that, right, is this is the age difference. For those of us of a certain age, let's just say 35 and up, the younger generation, if they meet somebody, guy or girl, sociably, the first thing they do, what's your Instagram handle? And then they'll say they won't even follow you unless you got a bunch of followers. So the
Right.
younger generation are very transparent when they meet people, that they don't mess with nobody that don't got a lot of followers, a lot of
Hmm.
friends, which is, for us, we may find it very odd that that's what they
Right.
do, because everything that they do is more of what they would consider clout chasing, or
Hmm.
I know you know a lot of people, so I want to know who you are and what you're into.
Right.
What we have to do at our age is, we have to vet a little different. We have to,
We
like
do.
Drea said, we have to understand that they have different pronouns. They have all types of stuff that they might be into, and even if
Hmm.
they might be older and they might be into it, and you might be like, I didn't know I signed up for this. That's because you didn't vet properly.
Right. You
That's
didn't vet
because you
properly.
didn't. And they got some stuff nowadays where they won't even tell you because you didn't ask.
Right. Exactly. It's the same what you have post about what's the former basketball player Joe Smith, and when he found out his
Mm.
wife was on OnlyFans. And remember what she said. This is the key word. You knew what I was about when you got with me. Once again, people tell us who they are and what they into. We choose not to pay attention because once again, we're enamored by how they look, how much money they got. People tell us, and the
And
red
then we got
flags are
then
blatant.
as the younger people say, we have to understand that when a guy or a female, some of us are for the streets.
Yes,
You can't take somebody that's for the streets and think you're gonna make them not for the streets.
right,
Now they could change their life and say, I'm not for the streets anymore,
absolutely,
but they're not gonna be in the street or for the streets, and then you thinking they're gonna stop for you. It's just
right.
not gonna happen. It's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
it's not gonna happen. Even when you meet certain people too, it's like that's what they're gonna be into. Like you said, Q, unless they do a change. Like people have to really um change. You think that I don't think it was fake because she's a what star from what I was watching the video before I came on here and I was like, this person did a full investigation now. If it's too many skits that's real life to me. I'm like, because y'all want to say face, so what are we doing here? So
Nicole said I asked the guy for his last name and he acted like I was FBI or something. Like, stop it, sir. If it is that much of a secret, I'm good. You're right,
absolutely.
Nicole. That it's nothing wrong for asking a person for their last name, and you had every right to ask that person
Hmm.
for their last name. That is part of the vetting process. That's um and even if we want to use a politically correct word, this is the process of information.
Yes.
I need to know everything I need to know before I do anything with you.
Right.
Even having that cup of coffee. Even
Hmm.
like Drea said, one of her biggest things is I'll meet you there because I'm driving my own vehicle. I mean, I always hear the thing, and I always say that it's a bunch of bullshit. But if we are going to be on this protecting black women from themselves, having this type
Right.
of information to vet, yo, ladies, that
Yeah.
dude that you think that got all that swag, or he might not be who he's cracked up to be or who you think he is. He
Right.
might be somebody else. So
Absolutely.
don't go through that red light so
Right.
fast.
And so many times we self victimize ourselves and want sympathy from people. But you the one that chose this man. You the one that chose a F boy. And same way with my brothers. You chose a F girl. So they told you who they are, but you choose to be like, once again, you doing surface level instead of like, they did tell me. Now I'm out and I gotta save face. So when people start getting hesitant, why you need to know my name? Why you gotta meet me? Nah, I'm good. We not going nowhere. Like we
Yeah.
not going nowhere because I don't got time for that. And sometimes too we fall prey and but we had everything lined up for us. You put
We said, Nicole, we do the FBI.
right, exactly. So
Yes, listen, you're exactly right. So, you guys in the chat, like I said, remember, like, share, subscribe, or hit the like button on Facebook. This will conclude volume 1 of our discussion. Hopefully, we'll have volume 2 soon. This is something that Drea and myself will. We just want to discuss and just, because regardless of where you are in life,
Mhm.
regardless of what you may think, the family is the backbone of the community. Um, and as the family goes, the community goes. Any
Absolutely.
final words, Drea?
Thanks everyone for watching. It's never too late to date again and fall in love. Make sure that you vet. Make sure that you're in courtship. Courtship doesn't mean that you doing your thing. Courtship is it's an interview process. You're really getting to know that person. And make sure that you ask questions, ask the tough questions, and also to assess because you're in the data collection process. So that's it. And I hope everyone have a good evening.
Hold on. There's a tipping point of black men who are no longer dating, marrying black women, choosing Mary Sue, Maria, Sula, and Becky, especially Generation Z. Right? Grown folks
That's true.
conversation. Appreciate you as well, Dwayne. With that, everybody, have a great night.
Have a good night.
It's a cold front coming if you're in the East Coast,
Yes.
so be aware of what's going on. With that, everybody, have a great night.